Welcome back to another episode of the Creative Saints podcast. I'm Josh.
And I'm Victoria.
And we are coming off of a 3-day Memorial Day weekend. How are you feeling?
I feel ready to go to work. I actually really was hoping that it would just be business as usual yesterday.
Yeah.
And the world shut down. So
It did shut down. But we just spent 3 days outside, yard work, sun.
yeah,
Getting a little sunburn already.
it felt like summer. So that was
It
nice.
did.
So hope you guys had a good Memorial Day.
And welcome back.
Welcome back.
What are we talking about today?
This is a good one. So today we're going to talk about, do you need a rebrand or do you just need clarity on what you're doing?
Hot
And there's-
topic.
Yeah, there's so many ideas behind this and something we've encountered so much. So I'm really excited to dig into this one. So let's go.
This is a big part of our job, a big part of our daily life and interactions. But I think even people who are outside of the design and branding world, I think there's a lot of understanding and pieces to this that relate to a lot of different areas.
Yeah, it's interesting because if somebody comes to you and says, I need a logo or I need a whatever they think they need, it's our job to kind of determine whether or not that's the case.
Yeah.
Right. And so many people just think, I'll just get a new logo and it's going to fix everything.
But what are the reasons that lead them there?
Right. Exactly. Like you already have something going. So I guess let's maybe clarify, this is specific to maybe a rebrand, right?
Yeah, a
People that
rebrand
Yeah.
specifically.
So it's not really for people that are starting out, but maybe you've been a business for a while, or you've been a brand of some sort for a while. You have a logo, you have some sort of recognizable
Right.
thing that you've got going on.
You have some form of online presence
Yeah.
for
and
your
so-
product or service.
So then for some reason, all of a sudden you think, I got to start over. What is actually happening, right? And I guess
Yeah.
that's the premise of today's episode is,
Yeah.
do you actually need a rebrand or do you need to just understand what it is that you're doing or communicate what you're doing more clearly to your audience?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
And sometimes sticking through the long haul of lower sales or slower seasons is just part of business, and people get scared and they want to be, spared of the going through hard times. But sometimes just sticking through and going through that is exactly what your business or product need.
you can't save yourself from going through that. Every
Right.
business has to go through it.
Regularly.
Yeah, it's like, what did we talk about before? Like somebody said feast and famine. That is what it feels like. And until you've reached a certain point where there's sustainability.
Right.
But I do think that a lot of people have this knee-jerk reaction to, well, if I just rebrand, then I'll gain more, whatever it is, sales,
Yeah.
followers, whatever you're needing. And that's just not the case.
Yeah.
So I thought it was kind of cool. You pulled up a few companies that went through a rebrand.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe let's talk about them, and they came back to their original
Right.
thing.
Because it didn't work out so well. So HBO Max in 2023 went to Max. And they dropped the HBO and just wanted to be Max to combine in all the other content that they had acquired to appeal to a broader audience. But HBO is the premium piece.
I mean, we
to
have that streaming service, and what did I still call it?
HBO.
Every time.
I can't ever find it,
I
honestly.
never called it Max. I was like, that's not what it is.
So when they dropped the one thing I meant to look up and I didn't look up is, how long has HBO been around? I mean, at least since the early 90s that I can remember.
Oh, probably way longer.
HBO
yeah.
free preview weekends on.
I mean, we all know what HBO used to be, so we weren't really watching it as kids. But
well, I mean, movies during the day though.
yeah, it's so funny. That is one thing that has come across where I'm like, I never succumbed to the rebrand.
Yeah. Everybody was confused and was just wondering, like, wait, what am I looking for? Because they lost that identity. They lost that premium. They lost the people having to have it because it's HBO, it's premium.
Right.
Max doesn't even really tie into anything. And I believe, unless I'm wrong, that it's part of Cinemax, but I don't think Cinemax ever was really. I mean, for me growing up, that was the naughty place. Like you didn't really watch anything on
Oh,
Cinemax,
yeah.
and
I don't know.
HBO was the thing. So making things clear over trying to be innovative is sometimes really where you need to be.
Mhm.
That brand recognition, especially when it's decades old, just don't mess with it unless you really have to, or you have a really strong strategy for shaking it up.
Are they coming back to HBO Max?
They are. So
Okay.
just announced, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago,
That's
that
hilarious.
we're going to go back to HBO Max because
Because you guys
our
still
numbers
call it
aren't looking
HBO
so great.
anyways. That's funny. Okay, well, the next one you have on here is Tropicana.
So
What the
in
heck?
2009, they went to this like super minimalistic. It wasn't your mom and pop like orange juice anymore. They got rid of all the like
Hmm.
old imagery, cozy family, whatever, and they went with this super sleek stuff. And people actually couldn't find the product in the store because they had been so used to getting it. And I believe, I didn't confirm this, but Simply came up in that same time because they had a modern and minimalistic, but
That's
also
so
that
funny.
cozy, homey, inviting.
It
Uh,
says that their sales dropped 20% in 1 month because people couldn't find their product on the shelf. That's wild. And so they reverted back in shame.
can you imagine 20% drop of sales in a month?
Oh,
That
but
makes you, how
no,
much planning? They
it's
probably planned that for a
Tropicana.
year.
Imagine how much money that was. Oh my lord.
Waste.
Okay, this one's
Gap.
my favorite.
Okay, you do this one.
The Gap. I love that they tried to do this. Okay, so it says they tried a modern logo refresh with clean sans serif font and weird gradient square. Oh, I vaguely remember
Yeah.
that actually. Why it bombed. It looked like a boring tech startup logo from 2003. Public outcry was instant and brutal. Gap reversed in only 6 days. It was like waking up from a branding hangover.
I just can't imagine that planning strategy goes into preparing.
Oh my
Think
gosh.
of all of the Gap stores and all the marketing material that was sent out.
Right.
Everybody's excited for this. And in 6 days, you have so much backlash. People are rioting.
Just kidding. Like,
6 days?
so wild. It is funny too. It's an interesting idea for a clothing company, a
Yeah.
clothing brand. I guess it happens all the time. If we really dove into like the fashion industry,
Hmm.
we could find a million rebrands,
Oh,
right?
it happens
It
constantly.
happens all the time. But it is interesting because everything kind of makes its way back around, right?
Right.
Trends make their way
Hmm.
back around. Things are cyclical, and especially with fashion, you always hear, and it's happening to me now because I've reached that age where I see girls and I'm like, oh my word, I can't believe jellies are back, or I can't believe, and my mom said the same thing when I was
Hmm.
a teenager. And
Right.
so I feel like there's something to a stick to itiveness
Right.
with a brand like Gap.
Trends are cyclical.
Yeah, they're cyclical. Everything comes back around. And so, and I mean, Ralph Lauren did it, and now
Hmm.
we're wearing the original Ralph Lauren
Right.
logos again.
People are rocking the
Because
teddy bears and the
yeah,
old school.
exactly. And so it's just funny to watch things come back around. And in the case of Gap, they didn't go through 6 days is not even a week. So
That's what
it's
all
just
the
so
stores
crazy.
even have that launched in six
I can't
days?
imagine. Oh my gosh.
I do
So,
think going with Gap, something to
mhm.
say in the fashion industry, a lot of times they will be very successful. Once they've built it up with a firm standing, they create alternate logos and alternate text marks and logo marks that still reference the brand, but they show a little bit of a different side or a little bit of a different era or different things. And they use those, but they stay true to the main.
Well, and I think what you're saying though is the strategy behind that is like a release of something
Right.
where they change it up a little
Hmm.
bit, and but you always have that core
Right.
logo
Yeah.
behind it, that core branding, the core messaging behind it, but you just do something fun and
Yep.
see how it goes over with a
Hmm.
release of something. Um it's just interesting because again, we don't deal with major corporations
No.
really, but we're dealing with it on more of a mom and pop scale.
Hmm.
And it's something that not just mom and pops and coffee shops and are
Everybody
dealing
goes
with.
through
It's
this.
everybody. Big corporations are having meetings where they're going, hey, what can we do to freshen things up? What can
Do we
we,
need to change the angle on that C? Do we need to
oh
change the
my
hue of
gosh.
that red?
And it's so interesting. And sometimes, yeah, you
Hmm.
do. But if at the core of it, you're confused on your marketing strategies, your messaging, your communication,
Right.
um, it's not going to work if you don't fix those things first. And if you fix all of those things and you feel like you can get away with something,
Hmm.
cool. But if you don't fix those things first, it's
Yeah.
never going to work. So,
I think that's a really important point to stick out there, that rebranding is a beautiful thing and it is a helpful tool, but doing a rebrand when you're in a high is when you should do it.
mhm,
Most of the time, rebrands that happen when you're at a low,
mhm,
your sales are already low. When you change anything, you're going to lose a little bit of momentum. So if you're already at your low, probably not the best time to go and change your visual identity.
yeah, I just think if you're rebranding to try and distract people from what's actually happening in your business, or, it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
So,
It's distracting.
yeah, it is. Okay, so when does it work? I mean, I kind of led into this in the beginning, but we have had people come to us and say, something's not working.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. My sales aren't where I want them to be. I've been doing this for 2 years and I'm just not seeing the growth that I want. I think that I need a rebrand.
Right.
And sometimes you do. Sometimes your logo isn't recognizable, isn't memorable, isn't, so sometimes, yeah, it might benefit to kind of start fresh and give
You
some
mean
new
like if
people.
maybe they didn't start off on the right foot and they
Right.
maybe there are times where, like, especially with technology, you get the MVP out there, you get your most viable product, you put it out there, you
Hmm.
test the market, and you proof of concept. And you go with some cheesy logo or name to start with, and
Hmm.
you may have to change your messaging before you full scale go out there. But that's more of a testing phase.
Yeah.
A lot of companies that start up, you have branding done. We've experienced this. A lot of places, a lot of people we've talked to don't have a business plan. They don't have
Yeah.
a mission. They don't know what their purpose
Hmm.
is. They say, I'm selling.
Yeah.
That's such a scary.
Yeah. Who are you selling to? What
Who
are
is
you
your target
actually?
demographic? What
Yes.
data have you pulled? What research have you
Hmm.
done?
How many times do people actually have that information?
It's like 1 out of 50.
Yeah.
I
Like
Not to crap
almost
on
never.
people, but
No, almost never has there been some back research on um how to market
yeah.
what they're doing. And we have kind of gone into most of our conversations going, "Hey, we're not marketers.
Yeah.
We can add that into some of our business model with
Yeah.
certain clients, certain things. But for the most part, we try to stay away from marketing."
Yeah, marketing is such a oversaturated area.
Mhm.
There's so many people who do it, and
Yeah.
there are people who do it well
Yeah.
and who have printing set up and have data lists and different
Mhm.
things that they're going to better serve you. And an all-in-one one-stop shop is really not going to help you find clarity, because then you have one person or three people working for you in
Mhm.
such a large capacity, and there's no other input into that voice to help your brand grow.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. So, what we're then often having to do is go, do you actually need a rebrand? Okay.
Right.
So, how far down this path are you?
Hmm.
What are your sales? I say sales, maybe it's, I guess, mostly sales that we're looking for with
Yeah.
stuff, but what is actually the reason behind your business and what you're doing? Do people know you? How many followers do you have? Sometimes you may have so many followers on Instagram alone that it's not worth you rebranding.
Right.
What do we need to do then? Because if a rebrand isn't the thing, and people get bummed, and if I'm being honest, there have been times where I'm bummed because a rebrand would be a much larger product or for us to sell. I
Yeah.
mean, it would be nice to have a big project like that where we can like go through and create all the pieces and do the ideating, and
It's honestly such a fun process.
it is.
Branding is okay, here's where you are, here's where you can go. Um,
But when
uh,
somebody comes and I'm like, "Oh, they don't need a new brand." Well, that
it is
means
a little
it
deflating.
is because you kind of have to go, now we have to get in the weeds with them and
Yeah.
we have to figure out what's going on
Like,
because maybe they came and I'm like, their logo is actually like sick. Like this
Yeah.
is a great
Yep.
brand look. So why isn't it working? And usually it has to do just with strategy. You
Hmm.
haven't been clear on what you're selling.
Yeah.
Um,
People don't know who you are, and
yeah,
a logo, a brand is I'm sorry, a logo is just one piece of a brand. I think that's a
yeah,
common
misconception.
misconception
Yeah.
of people think that, oh, my logo
Hmm.
mark, my text mark, people don't even know the difference between a logo mark, a text mark, and a full logo. Like
Hmm.
all of those things. So you have to do some education in teaching people, hey, your logo mark is sick, but maybe we change the text, or maybe
Yeah.
we change the placement. Maybe we adjust the colors. Maybe you're
Hmm.
a seasonal brand where you change your colors regularly.
Yeah.
Maybe it's your photo content. Maybe it's your product content.
Yeah.
What is your return rate? What are your sales? Those are big things
Hmm.
that a logo refresh, a brand refresh, even a full brand refresh isn't going to fix those things
Hmm.
inherently on its own.
No. And yeah, so I think we really have to go, what are you actually putting out into the world?
Yeah.
Right? Because I mean, we've talked about clothing brands, but even like coffee shops and stuff like that, it's like everybody loves a good coffee shop,
Hmm.
and it won't really matter what the branding is initially. People will come when you first open
Yeah.
because people love to go to a new coffee shop. They
Yeah.
love to work, they love to hang, they love to drink the coffee and feel bougie and whatever. I mean, I love a good new coffee shop,
Hmm.
willing to give anything a try.
Right.
And it can last on its own, just being a new thing for a minute.
Yeah.
It really can. But then after that, there has to be something people want to know the story. People
Hmm.
want to know that it's sustainable. People
Right.
want to, like, people actually care. At some point, they're going to care about where you're getting your coffee
Yeah.
beans from. At some point, they're going to want you to have cool merch. At some
They want your
point,
baristas
like,
to be able to educate on, because there are
yeah,
people who care about where the beans are from, how
yeah,
they're roasted. I think because Nashville is so dear to our heart and
hmm,
we've experienced so much, there is a lot of places, coffee shops, restaurants open, and they just crush
hmm,
for 2, 3, 4 years, and then they just close suddenly because
hmm,
you don't know the pain points of what it is. And when you're trying to keep up, maybe you weren't planned enough, maybe the economy, there's a lot of factors in there,
sure,
but I think that's kind of on the other side where there's some places that have had some sick branding,
hmm,
but what was their strategy? And
hmm,
did they just, now looking at them closing, did they just have a cool concept and a cool logo, but they didn't really have a clear visual identity? Did they really not have clarity on who they were
yeah,
or what they could scale to be?
yeah. I think too, like sometimes I think people go in and they have this cool branding and they go to open the thing and they're so excited. But you really do have to think, and I've said it a couple times now already, but this is I guess what I mean by it. You really have to think about the sustainability of what
Hmm.
you're building and what is the market like where you're at,
Yeah.
right? So we in the last couple years before we left Nashville, one of our absolute favorite coffee shops wasn't even a coffee shop. It was a little cart set up
Hmm.
in a music store,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't have made any sense for them to have a brick and mortar.
No,
They crushed it, and they set up and they
they're
weren't
still
open all this,
crushing it.
yeah, and their branding was awesome, but the reason it was actually working is because they had a sustainable financial model in that they didn't try and open too big, too
Hmm.
fast,
They
and
open in a location that has tables outside that people can sit at.
yeah, so we
Shout
were
out Wheat
just
Coffee for being amazing.
and we just like we absolutely loved it. Their hours were weird sometimes, but it just didn't matter. We were willing to go whenever they were
Hmm.
open and try whatever new drink that they
But
had.
that was part of their clarity of, we're open these hours, we're
Mhm.
not open these hours, we're
Yep.
husband and wife, we're doing cool merch, we're a
Yeah.
little edgy, we're a little cute, we're a little
Yeah.
whatever, and their drinks referenced it, but they also knew their coffee, they knew their beans,
Mhm.
they knew their market.
Yep.
And
It didn't matter
people,
that it was one person, but it didn't matter that you had to wait 25 minutes. It didn't matter. Like,
yeah,
it didn't matter. The line wrapped out the door and it was worth it
yeah,
because it was so good. And I think that had they tried to grow too fast or be something that they
hmm,
weren't ready for, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have been so good.
Growth
And
brings problems.
yeah,
Growth brings spread
yeah,
and stress and
yeah. So maybe that's a little off brand, but I think that it does, or off topic rather, but I do think that it does kind of speak to the idea of having clarity about what you're doing.
mhm,
Not just what you're telling people you're doing, but what you're actually doing.
yeah. What is that place driving into Lake Orion? I see it all the time, and I'm like, I really wonder what that is.
I don't know.
Before the little Italian restaurant, Oat Soda.
Oh, yeah.
I need to Google that. I need to
Okay.
see what they do, but that's a clear like their sign outside of the building, and the building is so engaging, and I like want to know,
Yeah.
but not enough that I've Googled it.
Interesting. And so
We also know a couple coffee shops over there, so we
we
have
have passed it and
a
stuff, but
path.
yeah, that's interesting though that you're like, it looks cool, but not enough to.
Hey Siri, remind me to check out Oak Soda.
So yeah, let's talk about this. What does it actually look like? And I mean, we're kind of throwing around
Yeah.
some things here. But yes, you have to define clarity in your branding. Okay, that has to happen. You need
Hmm.
to have the same until you are recognizable and you can do something off the wall randomly.
Yeah.
You really need to hunker down and like, this is who I am. This
Right.
is what my product looks like. This is what my brand is. This is, so what do you have? Do you have all of your socials? You have all of your um, print? You have all your stuff? You have merch?
Right.
What do you have? It needs to all say the same thing. Do you have a tagline?
Speak cohesion,
Yeah, yeah,
which is your brand's voice.
absolutely.
And that comes from your head, your planning, your storyboarding
Hmm.
of what you want to be.
Yeah. And then I think the next thing is, who is this for? Who
Mm,
is our audience? And it can be really easy to just say, well, I don't care. I just need to have sales. I don't care who the audience is. It's everyone. Anyone's
right.
welcome. And that's a cool thing to say, but let's actually think about the demographic of
Right.
what you're doing, because who do you actually want to walk through the doors? Who do you actually want to purchase the product? Who are you branding it for? Who are you styling it for?
Who are you speaking to?
Yeah.
Something, and this has actually been surprisingly, it's come up a lot when I say, who is your target demographic?
Hmm.
Well, I don't know.
Hmm.
And the comebacks to that are, well, everybody, like you said.
Yep.
You have to know if it's male, if it's female, if it's 18 to 35, if
Yeah.
it's 20 to 40, if it's 40s. You have to know that.
Yep.
But also the comeback that's come on that is, I don't want to come across as salesy. Guys, if we're selling a service or a product, that's part of coming with it. If you don't ever want to sound
Yeah.
salesy, you should not be in business for yourself, because
Yeah.
it's part of it.
There's a way to do it, that doesn't feel like a commercial, but you have to sell yourself.
Don't
That's
be a
part
used
of it.
car
Yep.
salesman, but there are ways to sell where you're offering them and adding value to
Yeah.
the conversation.
Yeah. Another thing is, what is the actual purpose of what you're doing?
Oh yeah.
You know, this is surprisingly unclear for a lot of
Hmm.
people. We work with a lot of ministries, and so I think it can be really easy to just be like, well, my purpose is Jesus. My purpose is
Our mission
people.
statement
Yeah.
is,
And that only gets you so far.
that is a very important thing to have.
Yes. And I'm using the ministry aspect, but let's just
Right.
pretend like it's a coffee shop or a
Yeah.
merch company or whatever. You have to have purpose.
Yeah.
There has to be something more than just making cool stuff. And people want to know what that is.
Right.
So if
Let's
you're not communicating it, it doesn't matter.
go back to the coffee shop example, because we love that.
Mm-hmm.
Your purpose as a coffee shop is not to make a good cup of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
That is what you do.
Yep.
But again, what value are you adding? Are your baristas special in this? Are your beans special in this? What makes you stand out from your competition?
Mm-hmm.
You can have cool merch, you can have that, but coffee is the tie-in to get someone to come in for a time. How do
Mhm.
you get them to come back tomorrow?
Yeah.
Is it the demeanor of the baristas? Is it the vibe of the shop, the aesthetic of the shop?
Mm-hmm.
Is it that you're in a cool location like a drum shop?
Yeah.
What is the shtick, I guess,
Yeah.
that
And
keeps people coming back?
whatever it is, people will come back for it. There have been coffee shops that feel like I'm sitting in a cozy, homey living room,
Mm-hmm.
but the coffee is only mediocre, and I'm
Right.
still willing to go
I
back
will
because
go
I like the
back.
vibe.
Yep.
On the flip side of that, there are coffee shops that serve a really, really, really killer cup of coffee, and the baristas are rude,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll still go back
Yeah.
because they know what they're doing. They're
Yeah.
not in it for customer service, they're in it
Mm-hmm.
for good coffee, which seems, counterintuitive, but like it's a thing.
But if
It's a
you
real
lean
thing.
into it and, hey, we're the most knowledgeable about
Hmm.
this, and be cocky
There's
about
there
your.
is one that I'm thinking of in Nashville that when they first opened, it was ridiculous. The amount of time you had to wait for your coffee, the way that they looked, the way that just the whole demeanor about the place was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And we went all the time. And we complained about the service and the time it took to get
Yep.
our coffee, but we still went back.
Everybody
Because,
did it.
yeah.
In.
So what is your purpose? What is the thing that you are saying? This is a non-negotiable for me. Is
Mm-hmm.
it your service? Is it your product?
Yeah.
Is it your knowledge? What is that?
Yeah.
Are you educating people with something? Are
Yeah.
you giving back? Are you creating sustainability? Like
Right.
you have to have a clear purpose, and you can have it all, but you have to nail down what is the thing that I want to communicate to people.
Yeah.
You can have all of the things and say I want all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine. Have all of it, but tell people one of them.
Right.
Like,
How you have to position yourself in the market,
yeah.
against your competition,
Mm-hmm.
against the culture of your community, against where you are, who you are, and how you want to be perceived.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know how you're going to position yourself.
Yeah. I think that sometimes we try so much to build something cute, something
Yeah.
trendy, something as long as the logo's cool,
Yep.
as long as it's
Mm-hmm.
recognizable, then this is going to work. Well, it will for a minute, but
Yeah.
it's not, you're not creating long lasting, success
Right.
doing that
You have to be
unless
so
you're,
clear.
unless you're, yes, like leading with clarity. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think that being clever also, we kind of touched on like, what is your stick?
Yeah.
Like shtick.
Shtick.
I think people enjoy that in
Yeah.
marketing. I think that they enjoy that in branding. I think people like clever, people like
Mhm.
funny, witty.
Yeah.
If you can come up with something that isn't cheesy and is
Yeah.
actually clever, I think people really, really love that. But again, if you're not consistent
Mhm.
in that, if your merch doesn't match it, if your language doesn't match it, if
Yeah.
the way that you're marketing after it doesn't match what you started with,
Exactly.
it's not going to be sustainable. It's not going to last. I guess, how do you know? I'm kind of skipping around here.
No, we're good.
How do you know? So for you personally, because I do feel like you kind of have a clearer idea of this initially when we have clients that come and they need a rebrand. And I've even heard you on the phone sometimes with people going, I don't think you need a rebrand. And I'm in the background going, dang it, that would have been awesome,
Why are you turning down clients?
Why are you turning down a bigger project? But that does seem to be something that you are often very clear about.
Yeah.
What do you think is one of your initial like gut reactions to someone saying they need branding, and what is the thing that you go, no, you don't?
When they jump into it with, I don't have enough followers or sales.
Yeah.
That's immediately
Yeah.
I'm going to say this, and at times I have been 100% guilty of this
Mhm.
over the last 7 years of doing what we're doing. If that's where you jump, I need sales and I need more customers or followers or whatever. That means that you probably need to look at things way deeper.
Mhm.
A rebrand only going to confuse people.
Yep.
It's not going to bring on more clarity. It's not going to bring on more brand recognition. It's not going to bring on more stability. It's just going to confuse people. And you're actually gonna, when you say that, that makes me think that even if we do a rebrand, you're going to tumble
Mhm.
because you don't have a basis. If someone says they don't have a business plan, or nobody has bounced this idea off of anyone else, and it's a singular person,
Mhm.
we need to, there's no market research.
Right.
And that's not even called market research, but
Mhm.
If you have only singularly been doing this, just me alone coming in or us coming in is not going to be enough other brain
Mm-hmm.
to come in and shed light, add more
Yeah.
critique or anything. And the other thing is if you are critiquing them on their current branding and how it could be better or color choices and they get really defensive,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things right there just are red flags that whatever I do, we do, they're probably not going to be happy or any more
Mm-hmm.
successful at the end.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's not, we can do one-off things, but ultimately we want people to succeed and we
right.
want our work to go out into the world and mean something, matter,
I mean, listen,
accomplish.
hire us to redo your logo and we'll do it.
Yeah,
But that doesn't just magically change
it
everything.
doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. It hurts my heart sometimes when people think that that is just going to solve all their problems.
Yeah.
And, sometimes you do take work on where you're going, oh, they need a better strategy. But maybe all they want from us is a logo. They don't
Yeah.
want strategy. They don't want a business plan. They don't want, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Um,
You
you
have to
know,
frame that work differently
yeah,
because you can't be
yeah.
responsible for the outcome of that. And that sounds terrible. I don't ever want to be like, I'm not responsible for that work.
But then, but you kind of are going into it going, if this is how my interaction with this
Yeah.
went, then chances are a year and a half down the road, they're going to go find another designer to
Right.
do it again.
Yeah.
And so that what you're putting out isn't going to last.
Yeah.
And so that isn't a great feeling.
No.
It does bring work. And so people need logos, people need branding, whatever. And they're going to get it one way or another.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's like, well, we'll just do it,
I mean,
if they're willing to pay for it.
I'll
Like,
do it.
yeah.
I
But
get to sit down and draw it. Like,
yeah, it
it's really
becomes
not
a
terrible.
different type of project and maybe not something that is a passion project necessarily,
Yeah.
but it just becomes work,
Right.
at that point. Um yeah, I think that before people go into a rebrand, maybe just making this clear, like you have to ask yourself, what is my purpose?
Yeah.
Who is my audience?
Yeah.
What message am I preaching? And then does the design follow
Mm-hmm.
those things?
Yeah.
Because in most cases it needs to follow
Right.
that. There are some times where you have an idea, you create a killer logo and it all just is symbiotic and works together,
Yeah.
but most of the time you have to be clear on the other things
Mm-hmm.
before you can create. I was just thinking actually that we recently did this and we hadn't talked about this before this.
Who are
We
you gonna?
what?
No, I'm.
We basically just rebranded like a year ago.
Oh yeah.
And I wasn't thinking about us at all. um But for us, we'd built the business.
Yeah.
It was called Digital Paper Design, and that was it for years and years and years.
6 years.
Yeah,
Six and a
and
half years.
um, I feel like it went as far as it could go. I think that when you brought up the idea of a rebrand, it made me nervous
Yeah.
because I'm like, do people recognize our name? And to a point, I think that they did, but
People
because
did.
because it's just you and I,
Mm-hmm.
you know, maybe at some point we thought that we were going to really build some sort of like design empire, but that is not what happened. It's been you
Mm-hmm.
and I this whole time. And
We talked about expanding and growing and bringing
yeah.
people on, and when we decided that that wasn't really the path, we didn't
Mhm.
want to start a full-on agency.
The name kind of stopped making sense.
Sense.
But you can't just go and change things. It's
Right.
everything we're talking about right now. We can't just go and like change everything. But I think that once we started talking about that, and I think it was probably in your head a lot longer than when you brought it up to me, um, we realized that people weren't looking for digital paper. They were
Right.
looking for Josh McKenna.
Right.
And once we had clarity on that, it started to kind of make sense. Like, I think something needs to change.
It
And
felt like we were hiding behind a wall of
yeah,
people can't find us. Like, oh, we don't want someone to find us, or like it just felt weird. Like our purpose and our mission was
yeah,
not clear. It's
yeah,
like, hey, I'm the designer, I'm the strategy. Like all of these things, but then wait, but we're going to hide behind this wall of, or counter, or whatever, of Digital Paper Design Co.
Yeah.
And it just felt not authentic. And we've always
Yeah.
been so authentic. And so when we started talking about it, we were like, well, we're McKenna Creative.
Which we'd already tried that. If you listen to last week's
So
episode, you'll know
we
that.
tried that.
Yeah, we tried McKenna Creative Solutions. That was not a thing.
But then we kind of came back to McKenna Creative. We're like, let's just be blunt out there.
Yeah.
But then it was like, well, I'm the designer and I'm creating, and people
Yeah.
are looking for me and they want that personal, like, one-on-one touch.
And I'm not on all the calls. I mean, if you're just doing straight up branding stuff, I'm
Right.
not always on those calls. When we get into more strategy,
Right.
anything that might include admin or anything like that,
Processes,
then you'll kind of ask for my brain. But if it's just making cool stuff look cool, like, I'm not on those calls. And so, and because that's the crux of our business, people weren't looking for me at all.
right.
Like, they were only looking for you. And I think maybe you had a little bit of like not wanting to push me out.
Yeah, I did. I mean,
Yeah.
you are the barrier and the critique before anything goes out to anyone.
Right.
And so you are an even more integral
But
part of this
our
than,
clients don't know that though.
but exactly.
Yeah.
Our clients don't, hey, my wife looks at my work
Yeah.
before I send it. That would be a little silly.
Yeah.
So we started talking about it, and it just kind of naturally came. Things are created by Josh McKenna, and
So these are Josh McKenna's designs. So we changed everything.
Whoa.
Yeah, imagine that. We changed everything. We changed all. You did the logo, you did, and then we built the website. And
SEO
it's
became easier. Website traffic is
everything
booming.
changed the second we did that. So, but I think that it also had to do with timing, right? Like, we couldn't have done that 2 years in, or I mean, maybe we could have, but we did build something that people did recognize.
Right.
And maybe they weren't, maybe it wasn't our business that they recognized. It was you were the thing,
Yeah.
you know. But we had built enough of a name for you that it
Mhm.
made sense to change it. And so, yeah, I think it's so interesting when we were talking about all of this that we never even talked about ourselves.
That's so funny. And it wasn't that long ago. It was
No, it wasn't.
like maybe 10 months ago.
Yeah. It just made so much sense to go and say, all right, we're flipping the script here.
Mhm.
And it's worked. It's worked really well. I
Yeah.
think people have more clarity on what we are. What is digital paper? Well, it doesn't matter anymore. It's
Your mom told people that we did marketing
yeah,
for years,
for
and now she
years.
says, "Oh, they're designers and strategists."
Yeah, it's interesting. I honestly, if we could avoid marketing at all costs.
Like at the let's flow it through
Yeah.
and say, "Hey, here's what we need."
Yeah.
Anyways, let's move on from that.
Okay. Well, so we are just like Gap and Tropicana. No, I'm just kidding.
But we didn't revert
We didn't revert back.
6 days later.
Okay, so this is an interesting one. Once you are clear about who you are, what you're doing will make more sense, not just to your audience, but to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if a business owner is confused at all, frustrated at all about
Mhm.
what they're doing or why they're doing it, it comes down. It trickles down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it like the effect on the product, the business, the employees,
Mhm.
it's there. You can
Yeah.
feel it. It's tangible, and you may not even realize that that's what's happening or why
Right.
it's happening. But if you are frustrated and you are unclear about where do you want this to go, what do you want this to be, you're going to feel it in all aspects of your business. And so once you gain that clarity on this is who I am, this is what I was made for,
Right.
this is what I'm building, this is who it's for, you as a business owner are going to operate differently.
Oh, 100%.
You are going to have so much more confidence in what you're doing, the decisions that you make, the people you surround
Mhm.
yourself with, because you're going to understand the why behind what you're doing. And
When you have clarity,
Mhm.
your confidence naturally comes because
Yeah.
you can take what is my voice, what is my audience, what is
Mhm.
my purpose and my positioning and all of those things, and you can write them down in 2 seconds and
Yeah.
tell someone in a conversation.
Yeah.
You can be confident in that. when you don't know,
Mhm.
it's this looming in the back of your head, and I'm making a generalization here, but it's this looming in the back of your head of, well, I know who I am, but I don't really have an elegant way to put that out there or to
Yeah.
say that. I don't know how to say all that without talking for 20 minutes.
Mhm.
Once you can write that down and have it down and you consistently say it,
Mhm.
people are going to trust you.
Yep.
People are going to trust your product. Consistency and cohesion are so important for
Yep.
clarity.
Absolutely. I think that it really just comes down to like the confusion that you feel, right?
Mhm.
There's just a really good chance that you're not asking yourself the hard questions.
Yeah.
And if you don't have clarity on these things, it can feel very, very hard
Mhm.
to think about, to decide. You need to get another person, bring them in the room with you, and get some hard questions
Yeah.
asked and answered. You cannot avoid this stuff.
No.
You can't. And first time business owners tend to try and avoid it. I mean, I think there's something to like people that are raising money, they have to answer these questions
Yeah.
because investors need to know the answers. But if you're just bootstrapping, it can be
Mhm.
really easy to avoid asking yourself these questions
Yeah.
and get so caught up in the building process and accomplishing a goal
Yeah.
that you're not actually making clear choices.
I think a lot of people get to work
Mm-hmm.
in building
Yep.
before they do this.
Yeah.
And then you end up in a position where you wake up every day and you have 13 hats that you wear. How do
Yeah.
you get it done?
Yeah. And I don't even know what I'm doing anymore.
Right.
It just, yeah,
I'm just
you're unclear.
surviving at that point,
Yeah.
and that's going to be hard
Yeah.
to
So
continue to run.
chances are you're not as confused as you think you are, or maybe your customers aren't as confused as
Yeah.
they think they are.
hmm
You just need to get some clarity on
Yeah.
some things. Yeah.
So, what are some questions that you think? I mean, we kind of already talked about
Hmm.
that, but just let's pause here and just put out the questions of what should you write down and know to have clarity before you say, I need a rebrand or things aren't working.
Hmm. Um, I think the first one that came to mind, honestly, was what do I want this to be in 5 years?
Yeah.
What am I building, right?
hmm
Because it can be so easy to think about what do I want it to be next week?
Yeah.
What do I want it to be a month from now? And to have a dream. And, as we're talking, I'm thinking about like brick and mortar things, right? Because it's visual growth. You can see the growth in those
Right.
things. So if you're running out of a coffee cart right now, what do you want this to look like in 5 years?
hmm
What does that space look like? Create the vision in your
Yeah.
head of like what is it? If you are running an online store, what is your 5-year goal for
Yeah.
this? Are you still going to be running this store, or is
Right.
this going to evolve into something different or
hmm
bigger? Or is this going to be the thing that makes money while you sleep when you go and do something else?
Right.
You need to have a clear idea of where you want to go,
hmm
because that will inform the decisions you make today.
Yeah.
So
100%.
that might not mean that you get in the brick and mortar next week, but it's going to change the way you run your financials.
Absolutely.
It's going to change the way you think about scaling.
hmm
Um, and so I think that is my first question is what is your 5-year plan here?
I
Does it
love
even
that.
include what you're currently doing? It might not. This might just be a stepping stone on the way to where you're
Yep.
going. Again, that's going to change your strategy
It
for the
is.
business.
I think it's insane that you just brought that up because one of my first questions that I think people should really ask themselves, because I wish that I would have done this,
Hmm.
is how are you going to make money while you sleep?
Yeah.
And that is something that I wish that I would have thought about when we started.
Yeah.
I've said it for years
Yeah.
of I want to eventually get to the point where I have something going that at 3 a.m. I'm making sales and I'm not
Mhm.
doing anything.
Right.
Social media, there's planning and preparing,
Yeah.
but I think in your plan, in your thoughts of starting is what is an avenue of this that I can make money while I sleep?
Yeah.
Is that an e-commerce shop? Is that an online forum?
Is it
Is it
investment of some sort? Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So that's one of the questions I think is super important. And the next question that I would ask is this a starter product
Mm-hmm.
or is this the thing? Is
Yeah.
this a starter product that is a $30 sale? They're probably going to come back every 2 or 3 months and buy it again. They're going to buy it at holidays. Or is this a stepping stone? Am I doing this
Yeah.
to get to the next thing so that I can pitch it to investors
Right.
to build something bigger? Do I think that this
Yeah.
can take on the mainstream grocery chains? Is this
Mhm.
something that could be in Target or Walmart? So
Yeah. No, I love that. Yeah. And then after that, I think those are some big questions. And then I think after that, it's the other things, right?
yeah,
It's what is your mission? Who is
what is
this
your
for? Yep.
voice? Who?
Yeah, that's great. I don't know. I just think that really gaining clarity like this, having these hard conversations it's for you.
Yeah,
Yes, it's for the people buying your product, but like it's for you. You have to have peace in what you're doing,
yeah,
and confusion is not peaceful.
no,
Running things from a place of peace, even if you don't have it all figured out, even if it's not where you want it to be, having peace in this area will change how you wake up in the morning and how you
yeah.
run your thing, how
And
you interact with people.
if you're going with peace, even if the sales aren't there, even if your roster isn't there, when you wake up with peace, it's a whole different ball game than, oh my God, there's 1,000 fires and
Yeah.
I'm just in, everything's burning up and trying to put them out one by one. Purpose, audience, message, and then it's time to consider a rebrand.
Yeah.
If you know these things,
Yeah.
you have these, you've practiced them, you've talked about them. Now it's time for a rebrand.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where this can be so much fun. These are the fun phone calls that I bring you in on that,
Mm-hmm.
hey, these people have it together. Let's ideate and let's do something for
Yeah.
them that is just absolutely incredible.
Yeah. What do you think about people rebranding? Like, let me get my question straight. Hold on. If you've built something,
Mm-hmm.
do you generally, when you're rebranding it and it's time to finally do it, do you try and stick close to what they currently have for recognizability, or do you flip the script?
It just depends.
Yeah.
It depends on, a lot of times target demographic is thought to be one thing in the beginning, and down the road it's something different,
Yeah.
or it's caught off in a different niche spot
Mm-hmm.
or industry. And you really can't know those, even with market research, how you may take on one client or sell to one customer
Yeah.
and they completely change the trajectory because they start telling their people, and you go down a completely different path and market research has just completely gone out the window.
Yeah.
That can't happen, and that's a huge blessing. It's probably not the norm,
Mm-hmm.
but I think you only know that, and you also may set out to have this purpose
Mm-hmm.
for your product or service, and 2 years down the road, actually, this is ideally what I want. It's
Yeah.
kind of shifted as I've done it.
Yeah. How often do you think that people need to be evaluating or reevaluating um, those things, what their demographic is? I mean, obviously, you're always assessing your sales and how things are working,
Hmm.
but how often do you think people need to kind of revisit that question of like, am I still selling to the same person? Like,
Yeah.
looking at those metrics and
I mean,
analytics.
I think that comes down to like quarterly analytic reviews,
Yeah.
like from top to bottom, from socials to financials to
Yeah.
um, your customer return, all of those things. You need to be running reports quarterly to know, like, hey, this is where we're going.
Yeah.
If you have a quarter that changes, see, like, let's say at the end of Q1, you are, wow, that was a completely different shift than the last 6 quarters. Maybe you let it sit for another quarter, and does
Yeah.
that repeat itself? And if it does repeat itself,
Yeah.
for people who may not understand that, quarters are a quarter of the year, so 3 months at a time. So
Mhm.
if after two,
Don't reevaluate after Q1. We
do
just
not
got
do
through the
that.
holidays, okay?
Terrible. A Q4 is never going to give you honest numbers. If after 6 months, so 2 quarters,
Yeah.
you're seeing a trend in a different direction, then I think it's time to reevaluate and say,
Yeah.
we should plan for Q3. We're going to
Yeah.
change things up a little bit.
Yeah. I love that.
Do not change things up at the holiday time. That is a death sentence for your brand, more than likely. Okay, so if you're no longer confused about who you are
Yeah.
and you are able to write those things down, you have stopped avoiding the hard questions and
Yep.
you are going in. I feel like that was a little bit of tough love, but we've needed that
Yeah.
at times. and
We
still
have to
need that
do
at
it for
times.
sure.
It's the messy part of business, but the freedom that comes from having that clarity and being
Mhm.
able to make decisions, It makes ordering easier. It makes rebranding
Yeah.
easier. It makes interacting with customer complaints easier.
Mm-hmm.
It really
It
puts,
informs all of your decisions.
yeah,
Yeah.
it helps you to find that peace. If you are stuck and you don't think that your brand is working,
Mm-hmm.
go look at what you've done and try flipping the script on, keep your same branding,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe change the hue of your colors, maybe change your imagery and your photography, your delivery on
Your
social
messaging.
media.
Yeah.
Test it out before
Mm-hmm.
you go and spend thousands of dollars on a rebrand.
There's simple things you can do before you got a designer involved. I think, again, you're going to be out thousands of dollars at the end of that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we're shooting ourselves in the foot here.
No, but I
but
think that's a great
it's
way to put it.
important. Yeah.
If you don't have clarity and you come to us,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be out thousands of dollars is the way you're going to see it.
Mm-hmm.
If you do have clarity on who you are and what you want to do, let's rock and roll together and let's build something.
Mm-hmm.
And we always tell people we want to understand these things about your business,
Yeah.
not because we're nosy, but because we want this to be a return for you. We want that ROI to come through for you,
Yeah.
because then we get to put it on our portfolio of
Right.
you're succeeding.
I don't want to put links on our portfolio that are dead. I don't want to put products and businesses and
Yeah.
people on our portfolio that aren't actually working. That
Right.
doesn't help
That doesn't
us
bode
at
well
all.
for us to look like we know what we're doing.
Right. So, yeah, if we're kind of, again, getting in the weeds with you and trying to like figure it out, no, we're not your business manager, but like there's purpose to those questions, and it serves everyone better.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. We've never done this, but I'm going to say this. If you have a brand and you think that you have it all together, send us a message with a link to your brand,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll take a look at it. Give us an email address and we'll reply back with a
What, like a free brand eval?
like a brief brand
Yeah,
evaluation.
that's cool.
That could be fun.
That could be really fun.
We're not going to do like a full on we signed you as a client, but we'll do a brand evaluation and give you a thing. But send us your purpose, your target audience, and your website or your social link and an email address, and we will reply because we're real people.
I'm going to put some wisdom behind that and say the first 3 people to send us their brands. We don't have time to do
That's very okay. All right. The first 3 people.
Okay, we'll do a quick brand analysis and send you back some information. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be fun.
That's fun. Hey, especially if you're in Oakland County, because we always want to meet new business owners in the area.
We do. Oat soda. I want to know what you do.
Yeah. Do we tag all of them in our release of
Yes.
this episode? Yeah, I love this. This has been such a fun conversation. I think that, again, we're having these conversations with clients, maybe not in this way.
Yeah.
People get very, very defensive about what they've built. This is their
They
baby.
do.
It's their
Mhm.
passion project.
And it should be.
It should be. And we never want to come in and crap on what someone has built because we understand how hard it is.
Mhm.
We've also sent our stuff to people and
Mhm.
said, hey, look at this. Please tell us if we're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Please tell us what you think about this.
Mhm.
Hey, give me an evaluation on this. We send it to people that aren't designers
Yeah.
to see, our brothers. Nobody's doing graphic design.
We've
And
gotten some harsh critique.
we have.
But
and
it's helpful.
it's helpful. And I think that we really just want to, build a community of people that we're working together. We're building something together.
Mhm.
We're helping each other out. We're giving creative criticism or
Yeah.
constructive critique or whatever. And I just, I think it's important to be honest about who you are,
Mhm.
what you're doing, why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Because it has to be more than just fun.
Yeah.
It has to mean something. So yeah, this was a fun one. I like talking about
This
this.
was
It is funny because I do think that I often get this like, oh, that's money going down the drain if we don't do a full rebrand.
right.
But again, if it doesn't serve you, it doesn't serve us. And
Right.
so, yeah.
If you don't need it and you weren't going to give us a positive review because it just cost a lot of money and you didn't really need it, like
Yeah.
you don't see that big of a change,
Yeah.
that's not going to be really good exposure and referrals for us.
Yeah. All right.
Important things. This was a blast.
Go have the hard talks this week, guys. Figure out what you're doing and why you're doing it.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye.